Welcome back to NOMAStea. My name is Gabriella, and I will be your host. Today, we'll be talking about COVID-19 and architecture. We are joined by Kadisha, Vicky, and Francisco. So let's get into it. Vicky, how are you feeling?
I'm doing great. Lots of cleaning and making lots of matcha lattes and matcha dalgona coffee.
Oh, wow. Francisco?
I'm doing good.
So, when is the moment, with everything that's happening, when is the moment that everyone here realized that COVID-19 has gotten serious? Like it's going to make a serious change in your life?
I think for me, it was the second week that we were home from school. And I'm like, whoa, this is really serious because, the infection rates were increasing like exponentially. And I'm like, wow, like imagine going outside and you're trying to talk to somebody and you never know that person can be infecting you. That was really scary. And it really gave me like a check to kind of just like stay at home.
Wow.
Yeah. What about you, Vicky?
There's been a couple experiences. Maybe my experiences are a lot more different from both of you guys. I think what was really serious for me was my ethnicity, I would say. I think it kind of happened around the end of December, maybe in January, when the COVID-19 was, booming in China and all across the world. And when you start realizing like how ethnicity and race can play a major role.
Yeah.
Especially like if you're going on the train and you get you cough a little bit and someone's staring your direction. And sometimes like it's not your own fault, but there's a huge play with race and a lot of discrimination going on. But I would say that personally for me, besides like race being like a huge card, I say that when it got very serious in New York, specifically New York, when the state of emergency happened, and I was on my way home on the train, and I was actually having a really bad allergy reaction, and I was just like coughing my mind out from all the pollen and the dust, because the NCA is like disgusting. And someone pointed me out and called me a virus.
Are you serious?
God.
Wow.
So I think that was my realization, personally for me.
Wow. The first time I heard of the COVID virus was somebody making like a joke about Asians. They were just like, I didn't even hear about it before. My friend was just like telling me about a meme that his friend had, saying that like, oh, all these Asians wearing masks or something. And I was like, what are they talking about? And they were talking about the COVID thing. So like that's like the first introduction to it, was that it was from China, and everyone you see wearing a mask is like scary.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of that about like why. I mean, it's a culture thing, right? Why mask, right? I mean, one, COVID is an airborne disease. It travels through water droplets in the air, right? And two, like, I guess it's a culture shock for some people, but whenever you go to East Asia and someone wears a mask, they're very mindful about getting other people sick. They don't want that. They don't want people getting sick or anything. So they kind of wear like masks for like safety measures. So when, everyone was making jokes about, oh my God, all the masks are like getting sold out in Wuhan, China. And it's like, this is never going to happen. But look at now. It sort of happened.
Yeah. I'm really sorry you had to go through that. Like, I do know, I've heard of people talking about, segregating the Asian community. And, I've heard people saying a lot of times, oh, I'm no longer going to purchase Chinese food, or I'm not going to go to the Chinese store. And for me personally, I do a lot of cooking, so I don't really eat out that much. But for you to go on and make a conclusion that you're no longer going to eat this food from this ethnicity because of something that came from China. Why are you doing that? Like, that is the same thing that us Black people were against when, the Caucasians were being mean to us, when we had all of that civil war and everything that's happening. So it's like we're doing it to somebody else, and it's not okay because we never liked it in the first place. So I'm really sorry to hear you went through that, Vicky.
Thank you. I know it's a very uncomfortable topic.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, speaking on the behalf on this, it's weird having like my like family members and stuff, or like people talking about other people suddenly changing their behavior toward different groups of people because of a virus that no one has any control over. Like, for example, like my sister in her high school, like people started to change their behavior toward people of like Asian descent because of the COVID virus becoming a stronghold here. People who would normally not be like racist toward anyone, which is like that part was kind of one of the points where it got very real for me. Another point was when like we were in the middle of like construction technology and they announced that they were closing all schools. And then we all had to like that 3-hour moment of like, what do we do now? Like that moment of transitioning, or realizing that there is a transition.
The week before we had to leave because of all the schools closing, me and my partner for studio, we decided that we were not going to come back to school the next Monday because my friend, she lives with an infant and I live with my grandma and my grandpa. And so we were just like, no, we don't want to take any more chances, knowing that people can look like they have no symptoms and still like be spreading the disease. That was like my major moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some more thoughts about COVID and some personal impacts, including maybe like the personal impact on your like routine or your outlook in life, and how do you cope with all the news happening?
I mean, normally, like, at first it felt like my routine wasn't going to change all that much. I do spend a lot of time sitting at a computer normally, but then as soon as like everything started to shut down around me, and then like the fact that you can't really go outside anymore, it definitely did change my routine about being aware of, like, hyper aware of everything I do outside if I have to go outside. Yeah, like, for instance, like, we went grocery shopping, like, the first few weeks, and, like, seeing the rapid decline in, like, products and the rapid rise in prices, it gets, like, very surreal when you're out there. And then you have to prepare, like, with masks and gloves and stuff if you want to, like, be safe. And I go out with my mom a lot, so I'm always making sure that she is, like, super, like, if she's also safe, yeah. Looking out for others instead of just myself.
So wait, when you prepare inside the house, you wear a mask?
Yeah, like we have masks and gloves. So what we do is, if we have to go outside of the building for like grocery shopping or whatever, we like make sure we have like face masks and gloves on. In case we have to like touch or grab anything. And then as soon as we get home, like wash your hands, 20 seconds, all of that stuff. Like the transition between leaving and entering from one area to another has been like become hyper aware.
That's interesting.
I know that.
Yeah.
Personally, because I work and I go to school at the same time, and it became really real when, my boss says that, hey, I'm working from home now, so I don't need you because I work as a part-time babysitter. And for me, it was like, man, how am I going to pay my rent? Like, how is that going to go forward? Like, I still have these bills to take care of, and now I can't work. And, like, my whole plan of working in the summer, by interning, like that may go up to smoke now because we don't know if you're going to have a summer. So it really became really stressful for me. And on top of that, I had pneumonia last year. So going out was like a big thing now because now everybody, all my family and friends are like super like, oh, Khadijah, you shouldn't be going outside. You shouldn't because you can't. You really can't. And, you know, for me, I get it. I understand that, you know, persons who have underlying respiratory issues and stuff, it's even worse. But for me, I just never felt that I needed something to really like dictate what I should do and what I shouldn't do. And for the most time when I went outside, I didn't have no mask or I didn't have like gloves. But when I got inside, I would definitely wash my hands or, you know, take my clothes and just go straight to the shower and kind of wipe down everything. But until the numbers really start piling up, I just kind of just laid low, and it kind of really, really stressed me out because I felt like I was just doing schoolwork and I wasn't doing anything else with my time until I saw our dean posted on the Instagram page What's on SSA about us donating the 3D printers to some Colombian makers. And I'm like, wow, can I get on this team? And I'm telling you guys, like, since I've started volunteering, New York City Makes PPE, I have been feeling so fulfilled. Like, I feel like I'm actually doing something like that, being able to coordinate distribution and having our team deliver to all the underserved hospitals and institutions in minority communities, you know, like, you know, face shields and masks, that just really makes me feel that I'm actually doing something positive with my time. So now it doesn't feel too stressful knowing that I'm not working or I don't know when I'm going to get a job, like, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So wait, when you actually have to commute there, or is it like at home?
No,
Like
everything is at home. The only persons that go out and distribute the PPE are our couriers. But for me, I just basically work with some other team members, and we take care of all the distribution stuff on Google Docs. Yeah, I just call a bunch of hospitals and other institutions. Like they go onto our website, they fill out the intake form, and then we see it on this Google sheet. And then we call them to verify their request, and then we set up a delivery and have the stuff delivered. So far, we've delivered over 12,000 PPE throughout the 5 boroughs.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I feel really great about it.
So is there like anywhere that people can join or like donate?
Yeah, so once you go onto our website, there is a link that allows you to join and or donate any amount. You can donate $5, $20, any amount. You just donate it. And we usually use the funds because Colombia also has their maker lab. We have a couple other professionals like engineers and stuff that have their own little workshops. So they're using all their machines, their CNC routers, their 3D printers, to make these stuff. And then we got donations, and it's just a whole collaborative effort, just joining together and making things happen.
All right. That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
It
just
really
go on
is.
to NewYorkCityMakesPPE.com and you'll be able to see all the information about the group.
So what about you, Vicky? What are your thoughts on COVID?
Honestly, I didn't when the state of emergency happened, I was like, oh shoot. And then with not going to studio, at first it was like, oh shoot, I have all my supplies and all my studio projects at school, and the fact that none of us can really go and grab anything. At first it was like a little stressful, but I think what really helped me calm down was that you shouldn't go out. You should not even go out at all because you want to, again, reduce your density and social distance yourself. In terms of, like, let's say, personal experiences with COVID, I'm not going to give out names. I do have family members who were tested positive.
Oh my.
But so far he's doing good. He's recovering right now. It's not serious. He's not at the hospital because, well, he was originally in the hospital, but they kind of like removed him because it wasn't like he was dying. So again, there's a lot of, I guess the right word would be, there's a lot of considerations when hospitals and or just any big hospitals in general, take in patients, because nurses and doctors, especially if you have family members who are in the healthcare profession, they're OD stressed out and just so overwhelmed. They can't take in everybody because, first off, you have to be dying. But in my situation, I would say one of my family members who was tested positive isn't dying. It's just that after weeks and weeks of exposure in the hospital for pneumonia, that was his case. He had pneumonia in the beginning. After weeks of being exposed at the hospital, he was tested positive, and he's not dying or anything. He's just coughing a lot. But again, it's not like every hospital are going to. That hospital couldn't keep him because he wasn't dying. Yeah. He was just contagious. So there's a lot of thoughts, I would say, into like who they can absolutely help, because again, like they can't take everybody in.
Yeah.
But so far, he's doing good. He's in the hospice right now.
That's good.
And we have no communication, which again, that's just the nature of what happens when there's a pandemic going on, especially in a really, really dense city like New York. But I would say that to anyone out there who has any friends and family in the healthcare profession, you guys are heroes. Legit, flat out, you guys are heroes. And you guys definitely deserve the best. Yeah. Especially after this pandemic is over.
I agree 100%. And also, like, you know, just being able to speak to these nurses and doctors when I call them to verify their requests. You know, sometimes you hear the stress in their voice, but for the most part, they try to stay positive and they speak positively. Until one of my nurse friends on Instagram, she did a video. She works at Brookdale Hospital, and she kind of gave like a little peek into what's happening. And the hospital is so overwhelmed, and she just broke down crying. She's like, please stay home. Please stay home. Like, this is not a joke anymore. And, you know, it's really heartbreaking. One of my friends, he had it. His dad had it, and his sister had it. And he lost his dad a couple of days ago.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, one of my really close friends. And, you know, he was telling me about his experience. And he's like, Khadijah, do you know how it feels to be dying, but you're still alive? He's like, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. He's like, everything, he started to hallucinate. He was saying, like, this thing is the worst thing. I would not even want to give this to my worst enemy. Like, he's like, this thing is crazy. And, you know, he was just talking about it, and he too was crying. Like, you know, he doesn't even know how to grieve right now because, you know, he's still trying to get better. He's not 100% better yet, and he's already lost his dad, you know? So it's hard.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So sad. It's a really hard time. But how are you coping with this, Gabby? How are you?
I feel like for me, like I'm most scared for my grandparents. That was like the main reason why I wanted to leave New York really fast. It's because I live with them, and they live in Washington Heights, which is apparently one of the most dense areas for the coronavirus. So it's very, very scary. And they don't actually go outside, which is good for them. But since I was going back and forth from school, I wanted to like get away as soon as possible. And luckily they're fine still. Like everything's okay with them. But my aunt and uncle, in Washington Heights.
So they're still okay.
Yeah, they're still there. We tried to get them to come back, like, because we knew that they were gonna like close the highways or something, like on Monday, something like that. And so my dad and everyone was telling them like, hey, like we're gonna drive over there and like let's come back to New Jersey so that way you don't have to worry about being close to anyone. But they didn't want to come. They were saying like, no, everything's fine, blah blah blah. They just didn't want to come, and my dad wasn't going to like kidnap them. So they're there still. But my aunt and my uncle, they're doctors, and one of them just told us like yesterday that they have corona and they tested positive.
Oh no.
So, but luckily they've said that her symptoms are like really minor, so she's okay, and I don't think that she's gonna like get any worse. So it's not bad. Everything's good. But I've just been hearing really bad stories. Like my boyfriend's friend, his friend's dad and his brother both left him, like passed away on the same weekend. And
Well,
they were young. They were like, his brother was only 25. That is so young.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that.
oh, that is really sad too.
Yeah. But pretty much, I don't know.
The scariest part about any pandemic is when it gets incredibly personal,
Oh
because
yeah.
that's when it's no longer a joke and you have to actually take it seriously. As we keep talking about people we know who are passing away or have it or in the medical profession, you have to, for everyone who's listening and for everyone else, you have to realize that like people are getting affected by this. This isn't something that is away from your sphere of your world. Like everyone is in this together. And so anything that you can do to help, whether to be stay inside or to appreciate the people around you and support your medical professionals and doctors and nurses, even like clapping and banging, making as much noise as you can at 7 o'clock. I don't know if your neighborhoods are doing that, but I do live in Washington Heights and Inwood, and every day at 7 o'clock, there's always like an uproar for people who are in the medical profession just to show our own appreciation, and we all join in. It's like anything that you can do help prevent the spread of COVID-19, even if you don't think it's affecting you at all, it is.
Yeah.
Anything that you can do, just do it, even if it might take a little bit out of your daily routine of staying inside now.
So what about you guys when you're working at home? Are you guys able, like, how is your studio work? Like, you've already mentioned this a little bit, Khadisha, but how is everyone's progress during studio? Well, not during studio, but like when you're supposed to be doing studio work that's now at home?
I would say, I know for a lot of you guys, you know, since we're working all the time, right, using Rhino, Adobe Suite, we're always like on our computers. So when at first you'll think that, oh, it shouldn't make a difference because I'm always going to be on my computer. But it really does make a difference when, when your siblings and your families are all have to stay in the same household, right? You'd be like, where's my personal space? You know, it's not like you have your own personal space, Spitzer, right? So I would say that in the beginning it was kind of tough, but after I think it's been a month. So after a month, I think it's now very slowly starting to sit in.
Yeah.
So I would say that I would say it depends on everyone's growth, right? How they get used to working remotely at home. But we should kind of take this as a learning experience, optimistically, right? We should take it as a learning experience and use this as a way of disciplining ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that a lot because, like, I, like, you know, like how in studio you always have those students who, like, do really amazing, like, every time. Like, there's, like, that one or two people who are, like, always put up their, like, best project.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you always want to, like, compete with them and, like, try to, like, get to their level. That's, like, me. And, like, this semester, like, one of the girls who I always, like, kind of look up to, they, like, asked me to be their partner for, like, a partner project. And so, like, we were, like, all good and things, like, during studio time. But after this whole, like, having to work from home thing, like, it's just crazy seeing, like, the person that I always, like, kind of, like, semi look up to is now, like, just as slow as I am. So it's kind of like, it kind of feels like, okay, that, like, I'm not, like, so slow on my own, but also it's like, this can happen to anyone, and that, like, I need to pick up the pace. Because if we all can't do it, it's just going to be a waste of a semester, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a waste of tuition and a waste of time.
Yeah, I feel you. Like, even with my studio project, like, I don't know. It's like, I know what I have to do, but I'm not motivated enough to actually start working on it. And that's a bad thing because usually I'm the type of person that always want to be on the ball. Like, I'm not, like, I need to make sure I have A's. I need to be on top of it. And I don't know. I think for me, I just have a lot of other different things on my mind that mentally I'm just not fully there right now in terms of studio. So
Yeah.
I have to be like forcing myself to really like sit. Cause even like after a period of time during the day, because I'm on the computer or on the TV, like I just literally shut down everything and I'm not looking at any screen because I feel like the constant, like, not paying attention to it, like being constantly attached to a screen, I just don't think that's healthy for me. And I've been trying to take away time during the day where I'm not looking at any screen.
Yeah, I think um, we get a lot of motivation as students in studio from each other, especially in studio culture. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of the things that we
Hmm.
talk about and are inspired by always, for at least for me, a majority of the time come from looking at other people's projects and like seeing how I can improve and learning different skills from other people. And having to stay at home to do that, you kind of lose a lot of your motivation. But that also, on on the flip side, that also forces you to rethink how you kind of go about getting motivated and inspired. Like just because you're inside doesn't mean that you're out completely. Like you have to adapt to a new circumstances and a new world. Like what I've been, for instance, like stuff that I've been doing is kind of like what Khadija said, like taking my mind off of certain things and just trying to keep myself as busy as possible by either doing like artwork or like getting up or just, like taking a shower. Uh, so I'm not like just sitting at home, like sitting at a computer the whole time. Just making
Yeah.
sure you stay as balanced as possible, even
Yeah,
during
like
these times.
I was talking to my boyfriend about this and I told him like I have no motivation to do anything. And he told me like motivation is useless. He says don't wait for motivation. It's never going to come for you. And he just said like you have to wake up with discipline. And the first thing, like I had an agenda book during the school time, but then like since I'm at home all day, I just kind of felt like I didn't need one because I'm like there's only like a couple of things to keep my mind on. But now he says like no, like just make your to-do list, make your schedule, and stick to it no matter what. And then obviously having like a separation of space between where you work and where you sleep is so important because I didn't have a desk because I literally never work outside of studio. But now I had to like make my own makeshift desk so that way I feel like I'm working.
I probably should try that because I do have a drafting table, so I can just probably just work on my drafting table rather than on my bed. Maybe that would help me because
Oh,
I don't know.
definitely.
I'm
Yeah.
Don't sit in bed. Don't ever do that.
Oh
You'll
no,
never get
agree,
anything done.
agree. Never work on the sofa. Like
Like,
yeah,
literally
even
laying
if
down on the
really.
sofa.
even if you're like 2 feet away, like I am right now, just do not sit like on your bed. Make sure that you have a space in your house that like feels like you can do work in. Like I'm sitting on a chair, I have a desk. I'm like focusing on that. Like my bed is like something else entirely. You do not do work in your bed.
Yeah, I need to stop. I really need to stop doing that because I mean, I wake up every morning and as I said, I make my bed up because for me, it's like even if I'm not going anywhere, just the simple fact of making up your bed just kind of gives you that rush to like get your day started. And I've been trying to wake up early as well. Like even if I don't have anywhere to go, I still try to wake up by 7:30, 8 o'clock. And
Yeah.
for me, it's like I just have that entire day to just do stuff. And, just sitting on your bed, say, okay, let me finish this visual studies while on my bed watching TV. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it works. Um,
All
but
right.
maybe just being on my drafting table would be better.
So thanks for all of that. Like this whole lifestyle has completely changed us. So
Yeah.
what are any like last minute things you want to say or any last minute questions or any
Get
silly
out
facts
of
or
bed.
something about what's going on to make it a little lighthearted,
For me, do not lose sight of your goal. Things are not the way that we want it right now, but still put measures in place so that once things get back together, you will be on the upside of achieving your goal. So just stay positive. Just take every day as it comes and continue to work.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would say kind of something on the same line where like you have to, it's a new world. The world will not be the same after this, regardless of what people might say or might not say. You kind of have to stay focused, live kind of one day at a time, but also look toward tomorrow and get out of bed and start like uh, doing like being active in any way, shape, or form. Not going outside active, but like just because everything's changing around you doesn't mean that that gives you the excuse to stop doing anything. Like you just have to keep being very malleable, being very uh like focused on like the work that you do and just the lifestyle that you live, while also understanding that things are changing around you.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely. What I was gonna say was, I mean, I guess it goes the same lines as the both of you. But don't lose sight of your goals. Um, and to anyone out there who's really impacted from COVID, I have a feeling that COVID isn't going to be one of the major like pandemics of this decade, right? We had other pandemics going on, right? And we've survived the Black Death, we survived the Spanish flu. Heck, we even had the swine flu back in like 2008-ish.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
H1N1 flu. I remember that. I was so scared of that.
Yeah. So I would say to anyone who is really impacted from this, don't lose sight. And to anyone who has been suffering because of their race or ethnicity, my final words is your ethnicity and your race is not a disease.
Yeah.
I agree. And yeah, like, just be kind to each other. Like, just reach out to that friend and say, hi, how are you doing? Or you're amazing, great work. Like, the little acts of kindness goes a long way. You don't necessarily have to volunteer to give back, but just be nice, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And, just try to be each other's keepers.
Yeah, always.
Definitely.
We're all going through this together, so we should
Hmm.
all support each other in going through this.
And for anyone who's listening and you have personal issues in terms of financial, you remember to check our school website. There is a list of different websites that you can go to for assistance for food or